mentioned earlier, Democrats in Michigan say the White House response to the Israel-Hamas war could put President Biden's re-election in jeopardy. Other Democrats are also voicing concerns. ABC News reported earlier this week that Minnesota Representative Ilhan Omar is accusing the president of a double standard and favoring Israeli citizens over Palestinians. This as Washington State Democrat Pramila Jayapal says that she is uneasy about the White House attitude toward Israel. For analysis, we turn to Tom Bevan, co-founder and president of Real Clear Politics. Tom, great to have you back on. Let's talk more about this criticism, if you will, of President Biden's handling of the Israel-Hamas war from those within his own party. What do you think this signals, and do you think this may cause some issues for Biden in getting their support in 2024?
I do think it's a real political problem for the president and his reelection bid for precisely the reason that you mentioned. I mean, Michigan in particular, where there are a lot of Arab Americans represented by Rashida Tlaib in Congress and outside of Detroit and Dearborn, that's a state that President Trump won in 2016 by just a few thousand votes. Biden won it in 2020, but it is most certainly in play and could be decided by, 10,000, 20,000 votes. And so if you do have a situation where, Arab Americans in that part of the state decide to, they're not going to vote for President Trump, but decide to stay home, that could end up tipping the balance. And the problem that the president has is that this is not just some fringe element of his party. It is a growing part of younger voters. And we've seen, and it's represented by members of Congress. I mentioned Tlaib, but there's also Ilhan Omar, Cori Bush. You mentioned Pramila Jayapal, and others. And so this is a growing problem for the president as he moves forward with his reelection bid. And you can see it, in the things that they're doing. Vice President Kamala Harris announced yesterday a new initiative to combat Islamophobia, which caught a lot of people off guard. And obviously the reason that they're doing it, that they're trying to placate the leftist portion of the Democratic base and keep those potential voters in the fold until Election Day.
Yeah. Tom, I also want to talk about this. Overall, poll numbers, what are they saying about President Biden's handling of the war in the Middle East?
Initially, I think the reaction has been pretty good across the board. Again, despite he's lost ground, but with Democrats. But that's been made up by, I think, independents who have approved of the way that Biden has initially handled the situation, standing by Israel after the October 7th attack by Hamas. But we'll see. Overall, his approval rating is still quite low for an incumbent president. His approval rating on foreign policy in general is a little bit better, but still not great. And so we'll see. We'll have to wait and see as this plays out whether it ends up helping him or not. Obviously, right now, the number one issue on the minds of voters in the United States remains the economy. And on that, he's still got a pretty low rating.
Tom, I want to ask you this. What about the Jewish community here in the United States? How do they feel about President Biden's handling of the war?
Well, we don't have any data specifically on Jewish voters that I've seen, although from what I've read, I think Jewish voters, again, have been reacted positively to the initial stance of the Biden administration. But as they continue to try and sort of thread this needle and placate the forces on the left of the Democratic Party, who have been, upset by this, the sort of pro-Palestinian protesters around the country. Biden was asked at an event last night in Minneapolis about, demanding a ceasefire. This is what the folks on the left want. We'll have to see how that plays out. I think there's still a lot left to this story. But again, Jewish voters traditionally have been, a constituency of the Democratic Party. And to the extent that they feel that President Biden isn't representing their interests at home, there could be an opportunity for Republicans. The Republicans thought that after 9/11, it never really materialized. But this seems to be a different level here with the way that we're seeing protests play out on college campuses and in cities around the country.
Tom, we have about a minute left or so, but I quickly want to get to this other story that's topping political headlines, the new Quinnipiac poll. In a hypothetical three-way race for the White House in 2024, it shows President Biden at 39%, former President Donald Trump at 36%, and Robert Kennedy Jr. at 22%. Tom, I want to get your thoughts on that, and are you surprised in Kennedy's surge in support?
I'm not surprised, and that's the higher end of his number. We're starting to get more and more data now that are looking not just at a two-way race in 2024, but a three-way race and even a four-way race that includes Kennedy and Cornel West, who'll be running on the Green Party ticket. And Robert Kennedy is in the mid-teens in our average, and he does seem to be in a three-way race, taking more support from President Trump. That's where President Biden has his best showing. In a two-way race, Trump is ahead, albeit by a very small margin. And in a four-way race, Donald Trump is leading. So Kennedy is going to be a factor, but all this is going to come down to ballot access. How many states can he get on the ballot? Which states they are, and whether they will eventually, help determine the outcome. So, but Kennedy is definitely in the early stages here going to be a factor in this race if he can get on ballots.
All right, going to leave it right there, Tom. Great to be with you today. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Tracy.